Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Niger Innis Presents The Trump Revolution, a part of the TvAbraham network. Well, we are really blessed to have on one of America's premier, I was going to say, premier African American conservatives, but that doesn't say enough. One of the premier conservatives in the nation. Uh, I'm talking about Ken Blackwell, who is a native of Ohio, of Cincinnati, Ohio. He is currently the chair of the America First Policy Institute. He has had a terrific political career, starting on the Cincinnati City Council, eventually becoming mayor of Cincinnati, which made some history. He served as Ohio Treasurer and Ohio Secretary of State. But his roles were not limited to domestic activity. He also served as a U.S. ambassador to the UN Human Rights Commission and Undersecretary of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. He captured the Republican nomination in 2006 and unfortunately didn't make it to the finish line of governor, but ran one heck of a campaign and made history in capturing that nomination. Since partially leaving politics, he has been a senior fellow for human rights and constitutional governance at the Family Research Council, chair of election integrity, what proved to be a critical position at the America First Policy Institute. He's an author, and he focuses mostly on promoting conservative policies domestically and internationally, election security, and tax reform. He also served on the Trump transition team and continues to be an active and one of America's most prominent conservative leaders. And of course, most importantly, he is the husband to Rosa Blackwell, who is his lovely, lovely wife for several decades and the father of three children. Ken, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us.
Niger, it's a pleasure to be with you, and you know that is never my schedule is never too busy not to be able to find time to be with you. Our families have an integrated history, shared history,
Going
which
back decades, going back decades.
which I cherish, and so it's a delight to be able to give some perspective, at least from my corner, on some of today's more pressing issues, both international and domestic.
Well, Ken, that is a perfect introduction to what I want to talk about right now. We, of course, are engaged in a conflict. I don't want to say war, conflict with Iran, along with our partners in Israel, that are hitting Iran, giving devastating attacks to Iran's infrastructure and the leadership. We know that the Iranians have picked Khamenei's son, the Ayatollah's son, to become the next leader. Not Ayatollah just yet, but next leader for the time being. But oil, this conflict has really hit our Gulf state allies really hard. And it's having a negative trickle down effect. Oil is at $100 a barrel right now, which is going to trickle down to our domestic politics as we're very close to the off-year elections. Um, our allies like and signatories to the Abraham Accords like Bahrain, their water desalination plant has been hit, which is incredibly dangerous because for our viewers who may not know, to desalinize water, it means taking seawater and making it drinkable and clean so that you can drink it. And if you don't have water in the desert, drinkable water in the desert, you are really in trouble. So that hit of the water desalination plant is critical. Iran has sent over 400 missiles and 1,000 drone attacks to the Gulf states. And this crisis is so bad that the Arab League has convened an emergency session to discuss what their moves should be. Ken, very, I was going to say simple question. It sounds simple, but it's really not simple. Uh, does the United States, and I favor this position, that the United States has a moral obligation to our Arab allies, to our Gulf state, particularly those who signed on to the Abraham Accords, to either give defense assistance and help, and I know we are to some degree, but I would argue not enough, or to give them the weapons so that they could defend themselves from this vicious Iranian attack.
Nigel, I'm sure the latter is going to happen. This administration is committed to tapping off the head of the snake. Uh, this is not a half measure that the president and his team has engaged in. And I think that it's not a matter of months, but I think in a matter of weeks, they will have drained the swamp in Iran and created a playing field that's conducive to a regime change in Iran. Look, the president has not tippy-toed on this matter. He started out by saying that we might have a loss of life, that this might not just be something that we engage in for days or a week or a couple of weeks, but it could take, several weeks to commit to complete
The
the plan
mission. Hmm.
and the mission. And I think that's where he is. I think our Secretary of War, our Secretary of State, and the President, and some of the key negotiators in the region, uh, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, they're in for the completion of this mission in short order.
Well, your words are quite heavy. Can you actually know personally Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff and have worked with them on other endeavors in the past? So I take it at your word that we are getting close to or are in the process of supplying our Gulf state allies with the support and the necessities that they need to protect their energy, water, and other infrastructure facilities in the future. And
And, you know,
yes,
these guys, these allies know that we're in this partnership for the long haul. This is not a fleeing partnership as far as we're concerned, and we've been leaning in on the Abraham Accords. This is unprecedented action by President Trump and his team. For 47 years, this menace has aggravated and disrupted stability in the region, and has committed its forces to killing and ridding, in their terms, of the world of the little Satan and the big Satan, and that's Israel and the United States. They've now met a president and a team that's basically saying, "Game on," and we're going to end it.
well, that is quite right, and yes, you're right. They refer to us as Big Satan and Israel as Little Satan, but there are several other apparently little Satans in the region that they have been a plague on throughout the years.
Yeah, I think you're right. And what has concerned them, and they made a misjudgment when they fired missiles and sent planes and drones into the neighboring states, and the other states in the neighborhood. They thought that they would instantly sever the relationship between those states, Israel and the United States. And I think, much to their surprise, uh, these other members of the Abraham Accords, these neighboring states, or leaning in to the fight. And as you mentioned, I think that there is a moral obligation and a military common sense objective to making sure that they have the equipment to punch back and help us finish the job.
That is terrific analysis and very hopeful analysis. As you know, Ken, before October, the horrific genocidal attack on the Israelis on October 7th, the Abraham Accords before that had tremendous momentum. Sudan signing on to the Accords, Kazakhstan signing on to the Accords, joining Bahrain and UAE. This has truly been had been a magnificent development. It hasn't ended, as you said, and you have an optimistic vision of the future of it continuing to accelerate. But how long do you think it's going to take for us to pick up that momentum and continue moving it forward and hopefully adding countries? Well, let me actually turn this into a question. Is another diplomatic, military, moral obligation to defend, helping to defend these Abraham Accord signatories, does that have a positive effect on potential Abraham Accord members of the future, such as the big one, Saudi Arabia?
Absolutely. Let me just say unequivocally, the answer to that question is yes. Let me tell you strategically what I think has to happen. I think we, in fact, have to open the strait. While we only get 7% of our crude oil through the strait, and because of the president's energy policy of all of the above, we can survive this momentary bump up. And yes, in some states across the United States, gas has gone up at the pump by 50 cents. But I think that it's going to have a short shelf life, and I think part of the reason for that is that I firmly believe that the president is going to execute a strategy that will open up the strait. And once that happens, there will be easing of the not only oil pressure, but the associated water pressure that you mentioned on the coalition, and as opposed to disbanding and weakening and discouraging the coalition, that opening of the strait will be a clear sign that the finish line is right in reach, and we will cross it together as a coalition, and that will give blossom to an expanded Abraham Accords and the signatories therein.
And it's truly an amazing achievement that I don't think that the president and Jared Kushner get enough credit for, and is talked about more often. I think certainly since the 1979 Accord and peace treaty with Egypt that Israel has, which has really been a foundation for peace and stability in the region. The Abraham Accords has taken that to not even 2.0, but 3.0, if you will. And you've got countries that, can you and I 20, 30 years ago, if they had said to us, you're going to have several Arab and Muslim states recognizing Israel and having not only diplomatic relations, but military corroboration. I think you and I would have said you're crazy. So the achievement of the Abraham Accords is not to be dismissed, and it should be celebrated. And I do hope from your mouth to to the president's ears, to Kushner's ears, to Witkoff's ears, that they're going to double down on defending and or providing the equipment needed to protect the infrastructure of these Gulf states.
Well, to put it in boxing terminology, Tyson used to be fond of saying everybody talk tough until they get hit in the face. You know, but I also want to stay with the boxing analogy because, as you know, Ali was a friend, and Ali said he hit Frazier in the face, and he just shook it off. And I think staying with those two examples, that's what has happened. Uh, you know, Iran punched back, and they thought, oh, now we've hit the U.S. back in the face, and they'll quit. The
But
president just
we
took
acted like Joe Frazier.
just shook it off. And I think that's important because a good part of this engagement is a matter of will. And this president's action it really is unprecedented. And his style is unorthodox. But sometimes you
I heard a
need
commentator, Ken, say that his style is like jazz improvisation, and they thought it was an insult, but I actually think it's a compliment.
absolutely. And so look, when I look at day in, day out, minute by minute, is the meaningful and muscular or reaction from China and Russia.
Yes.
Russia's doing a lot of head faking, but uh, China hasn't come out of the corner yet. They
No,
they
they haven't. I'm very uncomfortable about that silence from China, from
that's right.
Beijing.
That's absolutely right. And so I think it's important that we take a below the surface read of what's going on. Uh, this our military is second to none. We have thrown in a lot of heavy armaments and some of the major carriers in terms of our air attack. I think you're going to see a sort of reserving an action that reserves that heavy artillery, and now you'll see some of the mid, mid-range and a little bit less muscular artillery going in and doing some of these strikes. Look, I think we would be remiss if we didn't say one of the challenges that we're facing now happens to be the school that was hit and the
Ah,
hundred
yes.
and the 100+ kids that were one if in fact it was Iranian self-inflicted wound, it was that. If in fact is this because this raid, you got to remember, we normally do raids at night.
Right.
This raid took place in the day. If in fact this was a horrible mishap, uh, we have to own it. We have to speak to it, and we have to say, the only reason that we're in this war is or this conflict is because of the aggressiveness for 47 years of this regime, and this is one of the mishaps. If in fact it was a mishap on our part, and that happens in the fog of war. It's tough, but we have to own it. Because I think if it was done by our equipment, we have to own it because we don't want to have that sort of abandonment of ownership if we were guilty of it to start to splinter the coalition that we've built. I
Yes.
think
Oh, and also we don't want to rally Iranian nationalism
right,
against us. It hasn't developed so far, but
right,
we can't have many hits like this occur in the future because it could
right.
develop.
Yeah, absolutely. And but I think the administration. is saying, look, I know this is the case with Pete. He's saying, hey, we are investigating it. Let us run the traps. And I think that they will do it. And if in fact there was, a mishap on the Iranians' part, they own it. If it was a tragic mishap on our part, uh, we will own the mishap, but we would say that mishap wouldn't have happened if these folks hadn't been inhumane aggressors for
for
47 years.
half a century. That's right. That's right. Well, Ken, I want to thank you so much for this first part of our interview with Kenneth Blackwell of Ohio and of the world, if you will.